Welcome to the foam rolling lower body series. For this 10-minute workout, you'll need a foam roller and a mat. Some important things to remember is that you'll want to keep breathing through each of the poses. If they get intense, just try to breathe as deeply as possible. It's okay to feel pressure, similar to a massage, but you do not want to feel pain. If you feel pain, please stop. We'll begin seated with the foam roller horizontally across your mat, and then rock your hips to one side, bring your knees to one side, and begin to roll up and down over the entire surface of your hip and glute area. The more surface area you can cover, the better. So go all the way up and all the way down. Then we'll take the lower leg, cross it over your center leg, and then begin to roll again. So this will get a little more intense as you open up that muscle. Try to breathe deeply and continue to move back and forth. And we'll switch the legs over to the opposite side. Start by just rolling over the surface from the top of your hip all the way down toward the thigh. And then when it feels good, you can cross your bottom leg and get a little bit deeper into that glute muscle. Again, just rolling over the whole surface area of your hip. Now slide the foam roller below the hips and straighten out the legs in front of you. Now you can keep your hips resting on the floor and just slide back and forth, or you can press into the hands, lift your hips up for a little more pressure. So you're going to keep your toes pointing straight up toward the sky. Roll up and down the entire length of your leg. And again, if that's too intense on the arms, you can keep your hips resting on the floor and just slide up and down the floor. Now we'll reposition to turn the toes out. So your heels turn in, toes turn out, and this will allow you to roll the outer edge, the lateral edge of the hamstrings. Take a few more passes there, and then switch to turn the toes in, send your heels out, and roll the medial edge of the hamstring muscle. Now we'll drop the hips down, position the foam roller at the widest part of your calf muscle, so the lower leg just below the knee, and begin to rock your toes in and out. So you're rotating your feet toward each other and then away from each other. To add intensity, you can lift the hips up, and that will apply a little more pressure to the calf muscle. Now we'll begin with the toes pointing straight up toward the ceiling. Roll from the back of the knee all the way down toward the ankle, the whole length of your lower leg. Going as slowly and breathing as deeply as you can as you roll. Now turn the heels in, toes out. Again, focusing attention on the outer edge, the lateral edge of the muscle. Take a few more passes all the way up, all the way down. And the lower intensity option is to keep the hips resting on the floor and just slide back and forth. Now turn your toes in, separate the heels, and roll the medial edge of the lower leg. Now we're going to turn over, keep the foam roller positioned horizontally, and bring it underneath the hips. So we're going to start right in the middle of the thigh, forearms on the ground. Press your forearms down and keep the belly engaged so the lower back stays lifted and protected. We're going to roll just the lower half of the thigh. So from the mid-thigh down to the top of the knee, you do not want to roll into the kneecap. Keep your toes down at first, and then we'll take a few passes with the toes turned outward. So heels together, toes out. Keep the navel drawn into the spine, keep the lower back supported. And now reposition the feet so the heels turn out and toes turn in. You'll feel this in a little different position of the quadricep muscle. This one you should feel a bit more on the outer edges of the thigh. Come back to center, and you'll begin to bend and straighten one leg at a time. So stretching out that quad muscle as you apply a little pressure. Just do one leg at a time. Keep the other toes on the ground when you're not moving that leg. Now we're going to focus on the top half of the quad. So rolling from the middle of the thigh up toward the hip crease and just back halfway down. First with the toes down on the floor, keeping the belly engaged to protect the lower back. Now we'll flip over to one side. So just pick a side and position the roller right underneath the hip bone. And you're just going to rock your body. So you're twisting toward the floor and then stacking the shoulders and hips on top of each other. So open and close the hips. Try to breathe into this space. This one can be very intense. Now we'll keep the forearm down, position the roller just below the hip bone, and step your top leg out in front to support some of the weight. You're going to roll the outer edge of the thigh just from below the hip to the top of the knee. This is the IT band. Breathe deeply with this one. It can be very intense. And if you feel any pain or if it's too intense, just stop and take some deep breaths here. Now we'll flip over to the other side. So just roll over. Position the roller on the opposite hip. And same thing here. We'll press into the forearms. Step your top leg in front to support some of the weight. And just rock back and forth. And now we'll roll down the outer edge of the leg. So rolling out the IT band from the top of the knee toward the hip, but not coming all the way up. So you want to stay below that bony prominence on the outside of your leg. So just rolling the femur, not into the hip itself. Now we're going to position the foam roller vertically on the outer edge of your mat. And then you'll come down to the forearms and step your leg out on top of the foam roller. So knee bent, and just roll from the outside in toward your hip. So you're rolling along the inner surface of the thigh. From the knee, we'll begin to bend the lower leg in and out. So straightening out the leg, feeling some pressure as you let that leg sink into the roller. Now we'll flip to the other side. So the other leg will come onto the roller. Again, just starting by rolling from the knee in toward the hip. Keep a neutral position in your spine here. Important to keep the abs engaged, navel in toward the spine, protect the back. And then begin to bend and straighten your legs, stretching out that inner thigh muscle. And this concludes our lower body foam rolling session. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you feel more relaxed.